Welcome to Beekeeping Today podcast presented by Better Bee, your source for beekeeping news, information, and entertainment. I'm Jeff Ott.
And I'm Becky Masterman.
Today's episode is brought to you by the bee nutrition superheroes at Global Patties. Family operated and buzzing with passion, Global Patties crafts protein-packed patties that'll turn your hives into powerhouse production. Picture this: strong colonies, booming brood, and honey flowing like a sweet river. It's super protein for your bees, and they love it. Check out their buffet of patties, tailor-made for your bees in your specific area. Head over to www.globalpatties.com and give your bees the nutrition they deserve.
Hey, a quick shout out to all of our sponsors whose support allows us to bring you this podcast each week without resorting to a fee-based subscription. We don't want that, and we know you don't either. Be sure to check out all of our content on the website. There, you can read up on all of our guests, read our blog on the various aspects and observations about beekeeping, search for, download, and listen to over 250 past episodes, read episode transcripts, leave comments and feedback on each episode, and check on podcast specials from our sponsors. You can find it all at www.beekeepingtodaypodcast.com.
Strong Microbials presents an exciting new product, Superfuel, the probiotic fondant that serves as nectar on demand for our honeybees. Superfuel is powered by 3 remarkable bacteria known as bacilli, supporting bees in breaking down complex substances for easy digestion and nutrient absorption. This special energy source provides all the essential amino acids, nutrients, polyphenols, and bioflavonoids, just like natural flower nectar. Vital for the bees' nutrition and overall health, Superfuel is the optimal feed for dearth periods, overwinter survival, or whenever supplemental feeding is needed. The big plus is the patties do not get hive beetle larvae, so it offers all bioavailable nutrients without any waste. Visit strongmicrobials.com now to discover more about Superfuel and get your probiotic fondant today.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Becky and Jim are here to help us with the How to Get Started with Bees Part 2, 2024. The original series came out on Beekeeping Today podcast with Kim, Jim, and I in February of 2020. And we had a 4-part series. The first part was how to get started, talking about, hive types and stings and those early kind of questions. The second part we talked about was basically what is a honeybee, the honeybee life cycle, what is worker, queen, drone. And we talked about some of the other basics, including just the different races of bees and how to order bees. When we're looking at this again, we thought, well, there's some additional things that beginning beekeepers might want to learn about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And that's why we're calling this an attachment or addendum.
I like attachment. I think we can go there. We want to attach ourselves to that first series.
Okay, I vote for attachment too. So let's go with attachment.
Attachment? Well, I'm not comfortable with that, but that's fine. That's fine. So one of the things that beginning beekeepers need to understand is the amount of time it takes to be a beekeeper. So I think maybe, that's a good place to start, because sometimes the glossy pictures and the advertisements and the happy people working with bees in the videos don't really talk much about how much time it takes these days to keep a colony of bees healthy and into the following years of keeping bees.
And it's not just the time it takes to manage a colony, but we can also talk about the fact that it takes a lot of time to become a really good beekeeper. And it's not the first season or the second season, but right around the 3rd, 4th, or 5th season, then it gets a little bit easier. So hopefully the listeners have a lot of the next few years blocked off on their calendar in order to devote to learning how to keep bees. But let's get back to how long it takes as far as inspections and what your season looks like. And that's different, right? Depending upon where you are. I've got a shorter season here in Minnesota.
Well, I agree with everything that's been said to this point. The issue is always in the details. So when you say how long do you have to commit to keeping bees? Well, do you mean actually opening a beehive, looking for the condition of the queen? Because if you look at the bigger picture, we're going to suggest in a few minutes that people read books and watch videos. And so how much time outside of the hive that pertains to beekeeping are you going to add to beekeeping? The actual beehive part, opening, smoking, pulling frames out, is direct and straightforward. But everything else is a time commitment that you choose how much you want to put to it.
It's a committed relationship. I mean, I've got my husband and then I've got my bees, and both take a lot of time.
In that order? In that order?
Let's
Moving
see.
right along,
Let's
Jeff.
see.
It depends on the day.
It depends upon the season, right? So there's a priority, because in the spring, you need to be able to be a little bit flexible, because you might need to get out to see your bees. But I don't know about you, but I'm constantly watching the weather. I'm always looking for the right temperature to be able to get out to do what I need to do with the colonies. And so it's not like, I think listeners should understand that when you decide to become a beekeeper, you can't say, okay, every Saturday I'm going to devote to managing bees, because it's going to rain, it's going to be cold, it's going to be unseasonably windy. And so you have to really be flexible.
Let's start with the first season of a beekeeping year is spring, summer, then fall, and then winter. Spring is a time of increasingly more time spent with the bees. January, you start thinking about it more. In February, your heart starts beating a little bit more, and you start kind of looking for your equipment and start looking for that hive tool. And then come March or so, this is all regionally dictated because it depends on where in the country you are, but typically by March, you've ordered your bees, you're ready to start thinking about this, and it just increases then and through the rest of the year. So how much time does it take? Seasonality does play big into how much time you're spending with your bees.
Can we reduce this to a core entity? How long does it take to work, to maintain, to keep one hive of bees? And that way, if I have 10 hives of bees or 200 hives of bees, I can have an idea. But it depends on the season, doesn't it? If I'm trying to keep one hive of bees, what would I spend per week? What would you guess per week in the spring that you two spend on a single hive of bees? So that we'll have some idea of what we would spend on 10 hives of bees. Are you in it for 2 hours? Or are you in it for 15 minutes? How much time do you need to allocate? Becky was describing the right weather, no rain, warm weather, whatever. Are you just learning? Because I've always encouraged people who don't know bees from anything else, go out there and spend some time with your bees. Bad day to do it, shouldn't have done it, but you're learning. Damaged your queen. All those things are okay for the first 2-3 years, but by then you should have learned something. But it can be as quickly as just a few minutes. If you have a pinpoint thing you're looking for, if you want to see the condition of a queen that you just installed 3 weeks ago, what's the brood pattern look like? That's a 10-minute, 15-minute job. It's going to take longer to light the smoker than it is to actually look at the frame you're looking for. So if, though, however, you decide to change out that deep hive body, and you got to take all 10 frames out, then you're looking at a 45-minute job, breaking propolis loose, scraping, bees, crushing, don't match them. So it really is hard to put a point on it. And people ask all the time, how much money and how much time am I committing to this project before they consider starting it? And it's not an easy answer.
I've always hesitated using the comparison of honeybees as being livestock, but in many ways, each colony is a large dog you have to take care of. It takes a lot of time and commitment to properly care for it. So I think, you have to consider what you're doing. Sometimes preparing to go into the hive takes longer than, like you said, getting into the hive, lighting the smoker. Sometimes if it's just a 10-minute job, you can get away with just a poorly lit smoker and a couple puffs of faint blue smoke, if that much.
Yeah. Right, and some bad language. I'll tell you how this story is going to end. Of course, you're going to be surprised at how defensive the bees are and how fast your smoker went out.
Doesn't that also change? Because in the springtime, you can almost go in without anything.
It really does.
And the bees are just like, okay, we'll just keep going here. Do what you need to do. But you do that same colony in September, and at least around here in September, and it's just like Katie bar the door because they are coming at you.
Jekyll and Hyde beekeeping, that same colony that was kittens in the springtime is trying to kill you now. And you think, what happened? There's got to be a bad queen. Nope. What happened was the bees' attitude toward you being in the colony. You're exactly right, Jeff.
So they need to defend themselves in the fall, not just from the beekeeper, but from wasps. And
their doorbell's being rung by all kinds of things, not just the cockamamie beekeeper there who's trying to break in.
Even being able to sneak in without smoke, because we've all done it. But that takes the years of understanding how to get in and out of a hive and be as careful, gentle flow as possible and be able to get away with it, if that's the right way to phrase it. Smoke is a beekeeper's best friend when you're learning how to manage bees because it gives you that little bit of a cloak of invisibility.
I don't want to get off the subject, but just the right amount of smoke, because I have seen new beekeepers that had everybody in 35 feet coughing and gagging. It doesn't, the smoke is therapeutically applied. You don't just fog the whole hive with that, just unless you've just really got an attitude with your own beehive. But a little dab will do you in most cases.
I always feel like when you're talking about all the smoke and everything, you're looking at me, Jim, but I think that's just the way the cameras are set up.
No, it's just the camera angle. I mean, I never would.
Wait, now you're pointing at him.
I never would accuse you of anything like that.
Yeah, why are you winking like that?
Yeah, I'm about to crack up crying here. This is such a sad subject we've wandered over into. I don't like smoke. Here, let's just get off the subject for a second. I do wish that some clever person would come up with something that I could use besides that smelly smoker. I don't think is particularly healthy for me or the bees to breathe that. But if you try to go in without smoke, you're going to be back under your truck, you and your dog both, trying to get away from those irate bees. And I know you can use misted sugar syrup and all that kind of thing, but if you try that with that big colony that, Jeff, you talked about in September, they're going to kill you. They're going to really come out for you. So we're just stuck with smoke. But I wish there would be something, some secret procedure, magnetic fields or something yet undetermined that would let the bees rob them, figuratively speaking, and feel good about it. Anyway, I'm done with that. We shouldn't get off the subject. It's not part of our agenda.
Well, I do want to say, in all seriousness, though, we're talking about opening a hive without smoke. And that is contingent on so many different things. And Becky did mention, it did properly state that really depends, and you have to know when to do that because it depends on the weather, it depends on the time of year, it depends on the race of bees, it depends on the size of the colony. So there are so many factors that go into it. And that's why I always cringe when you see these YouTube videos of people in flip-flops and shorts working with bees.
Oh.
And that sets the expectations so poorly.
I will tell you, though, I did listen to your first episode, and at the University of Minnesota, we are all about going gloveless. It is a very different approach to beekeeping, and have a set of gloves in the car. But I'm a strong advocate of going gloveless. I'm not a commercial beekeeper, though, either, and so I think that I get where you don't like the misrepresentation of flip-flops and T-shirts. Is that what you said?
Flip-flops. Yeah, no veil T-shirts.
I'm a tank top,
shorts,
flip-flop person, but I'm also very comfortable if I get stung a lot if something goes wrong. So if you're starting out, you can't do that. You need to be able to be very careful. But I think that there is something to be said for being able to sneak in and out of a colony with smoke and do it very carefully. We call it gentle beekeeping at the University of Minnesota. We're going to have to add another episode to this if we keep going.
Well, no, this is important. This is an important discussion because we're setting expectations. So you have two different philosophies here. And Becky is talking also about this from working with a group of experienced beekeepers who can help you understand what's going on in your hive, tell you when it's good to examine that hive with minimal protection, and not someone who's never opened a beehive before and opening it without understanding all the other factors that tie into protecting yourself and enjoying the hobby.
Respect their ability to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Well, since we're down the rabbit hole here, I'm actually okay with people not being really properly dressed. I'd like for you to be experienced. You've got to be able to take a sting or 2 or 5. And if you're going to be one of those beekeepers who just takes a few minutes to step to the edge of the yard and beat yourself half to death, then you probably should not be the beekeeper who's not trying to use smoke. So, but the thing I would like to encourage people to do is, even though you're not using smoke I don't use gloves. They're always in the truck. I have them close by, but gloves really make me clumsy. But I do try to always put a veil on. Just, even if I don't tie it off, do something to protect my nose and my eyes. And I wear eyeglasses. And I thought, well, that's good protection, until the day just a couple of years ago that a bee dropped out of the sky and just by a random chance went in the space between my glasses and my eyes, and then was bouncing around and was trapped behind my glasses. And that can motivate you now, team members here. You're young again. You can leap tall buildings. You don't care if you never find those glasses again, but you have got to get that bee right away from your eyelid right there. You should have some kind of eye protection, because, of course, it could be a serious sting if one happens to really get close there. So no smoke, I'm okay with that occasionally. No gloves, I'm okay with that routinely. Becky doesn't wear shoes when she works bees. That's interesting. I usually have shoes on, but I do usually drape a veil over my head.
I actually usually wear rubber boots because of all the ticks. I'm just saying that there are some pictures of me out there where I happen to be not properly dressed, properly footed, I guess. Hey, have we taken a break here?
No, thank you, Becky. Let's take a quick break, and we'll hear from our great friends at Better Bee.
Are you eager to embark on your journey as a beekeeper? Look no further than our partners at Better Bee. Better Bee offers the perfect starting point: beginner hive kits designed with novices in mind. These kits come equipped with all the essentials you need to begin your beekeeping adventure. Better Bee is committed to making beekeeping accessible without straining your budget. As a valued podcast listener, you can enjoy an exclusive 10% discount on any beginner hive kit until May 1st, 2024. Simply visit betterbee.com/begin and apply code BEGIN at checkout to claim your special offer. Don't miss out on this opportunity to kickstart your beekeeping passion with Better Bee's beginner hive kits. Visit betterbee.com/begin today.
Well, we certainly went down a rabbit hole, and during the break, we were back up in the daylight. We're all set. So we've talked a lot about the way that a beekeeper can get off track, not just the three of us beekeepers getting off track, but beekeepers can get off track, and especially the importance of understanding your bees and how long it takes. It's a thing that you have to work at to learn how to do, and it really depends on the season and the time of year and your goals for your visit. One of the things that can really help you with all of this is by a beekeeper joining an organization, a local organization, and finding other beekeepers and talking with beekeepers in their region, in their city, in their small town or big city, to talk to them about what they are doing with their bees.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me. We seem to mention this mentor-teacher-student relationship every time because it is that critical. I mean, could we actually learn beekeeping without any other involvement? I think we would not really progress very far and take a lot longer. So I completely agree. Find someone local. Becky's in Minnesota. I'm in Ohio. I have an ancestry from Florida and Alabama. It's a different world there, different climates. So when I'm sitting here in Ohio telling someone in some other warm state how to run their operation, I mean, they've already gone through fruit bloom in most cases and have swarming issues, and I'm still telling them how to get through the winter. It really is useful for newer people to be in the shadow of someone who's done it before.
Even just like tips and tricks as far as when the nectar flow is, because that has a major influence on whether or not you're going to keep your bees from swarming and be prepared with equipment. There's just such great information that's local that you can't get anywhere else.
I know that people try to lean on social media, such as Facebook. Well, I'll pick on Facebook, not because I'm anti-Facebook, but because everyone uses it a lot. But they post a picture and say, this is going on with my bees. What's going on? It's really hard to do any kind of diagnosis when you're standing on top of them, let alone from someone's picture. And the best thing you're going to get is some guesses. But it really helps to have someone from a local organization or from your bee club is what we're talking about, or a mentor or a bee buddy, somebody that knows bees, to come out there and look at your bees, to see what you're experiencing, to smell what you're smelling, to hear what you're hearing, and observe what you're observing to help diagnose what's going on with your bees. I think that's so important. I will put it up there as the top 1 or 2 or top 3 things to help a beekeeper become successful and get into their second season, is having that resource available to them.
Well said. I think so much of beekeeping is learning what normal looks like. So then when something does go wrong, you have a frame of reference. And normal, even as far as colony growth, it's very different depending upon where you are in the country. And so it's something that
And time of year.
you can find, and time of year. So if you can find that support through a mentor, it's going to make a huge difference. And we talked about it before, but even finding somebody to lead you through their colonies for a season before you invest in your own is a great way to figure out if you're ready and if it's something that you can't wait to do, or if you might want to rethink the financial investment that you make to get into beekeeping.
Jeff, you said a bit ago that all these lists of things that were going on, calling someone, mentors, helpful, whatever. I'd like to add that a mentor is usually much more expeditious. So if you've got a problem and you take time with your phone to capture a video and you go in and you upload that to the YouTube channel and you post it, and then like fishing, you wait to see who's going to read it, and not just read it or watch it, but respond. Well, all this time, your beekeeping hive clock is ticking. And if you really had a problem that was meaningful, what would it be, a day or a 2-day, 3-day turnaround before you really get a multitude of opinions? It'd just be so nice to be able to call that poor put-upon person that you have called over and over again and say, what is going on with this? And have them say, that's happening all over right now. It's whatever. But it's often for the new beekeeper while they're waiting, because they used to send me pictures. Well, I was on a trip somewhere and I didn't check my mail for 8 days. And you see some dire picture. Well, by then, if they didn't resolve it, it resolved itself. So I want to say that a mentor in many cases is more timely response than either of our modern communication systems, because he's there. He or she smelling, seeing, feeling, looking. You just can't get all of that data into even a podcast, and certainly even into a video that you posted on YouTube or whatever.
Even if the mentor's not there, but they're local and you can give them a call and they can save you time by telling you what the next step is so that you don't have to, like you said, go home. How many times somebody you've been helping have they told you, for example, that they thought they were queenless, and you said to them, did you put a frame of eggs and larvae from your other colony into the middle of the brood nest so that you can see what happens? And they said no. And that means they've got to go back out to that colony, light that smoker, get back into it. And so I think what you said, the efficiency of it is just so important and can make your beekeeping journey so much more enjoyable.
And the mentor feels so good when you call and say something like, whoa, what is happening? My bees are attacking and killing my drones. You know the season of the year, and you can say on the phone, hey, chill, everything's all right. This is a normal procedure, so worry about something else. So that mentor can perform a kind of triage on when you should jump into a different gear, or when you should just go ahead and continue with your dinner plans. All right. I'm in favor of a good mentor.
You can also take a class. I've seen some garden centers even offer beekeeping classes. take a class. I think that's so valuable. And we're talking before we started recording. One of my very first classes I ever took, Jim, you probably don't, well, I'm sure you don't remember, but it was a beekeeping class there at the Ohio State University there in Worcester with you. Just a wonderful experience. And having, again, all that hands-on experience, looking inside the hive, seeing all that. Take a class, first, second, third year. Even if you've had many years of experience as a beekeeper, take advanced courses. Learning is so important for beekeeping, especially now with everything that's happening within our industry.
That's correct. Things are changing. Becky, early on, you said that one of the continuity things in beekeeping was that bee biology is rigid. So in this discussion we're having now, it's the same biology as a discussion we had several years ago when we laid these first tapes down, these first audio tapes. So it's that bee biology is really nicely rigid and is dependable. That helps a lot.
And it's this beautiful, complex framework that every beekeeper needs to learn. There's all that bee math that you need to know, how many days from egg to adult for a worker, for a drone, for a queen. There are all these different components that, as I said earlier, also, it takes a long time to be able to get the information and then put it together and then look at your hive and have that aha moment. And so having it in a class where you can sit down, have a teacher explain it to you, where you can get into a hive, have a teacher show it to you, I think it really is a great way to set the framework for the beekeeping journey people are going to start.
Even dissecting bees to understand anatomy is just so valuable.
Did you do that in Jim's class?
Yeah. Yes, we did.
That's fantastic.
Thank heavens. Where was I? Was I there?
I'm impressed.
I had better eyes and better physical dexterity then, obviously.
Dave was there doing that. I don't recall, but yeah, it was there in Worcester. Absolutely. Books are another great resource. I know books is old school. Books are old school.
So is grammar, I guess.
Can you write in cursive, Jeff?
I'm teasing.
Yes, I can write in cursive.
Jeff is excellent with grammar. Just read the blogs. Very good.
Thank you, Becky. So I will ask, I'll just go around the virtual table here. Becky, what's your favorite bee book?
I'm going to go back to the one that I started with, which was Mark Winston's Honeybee Biology book, published in 87, I think. It's so beautifully written. And there are more books out there now, but that's my historic book.
Jim, what about you?
I'm caught off guard. I can get the author's name back. After you get through all the basic books, you see, when you're 122 years old, the way I am, when I started, there was only 3 books that were common.
ABC.
And I want ABC, The Hive and the Honeybee, and a book called Beekeeping by Eckert and Shaw that kind of had a West Coast attitude to it. If you had those 3 books, then you've got the library. So I digested and absorbed all that, and I came across a book by Ribbons, Ribbands. And this is the part you've surprised me now because I can't hop up and run get the book. But that was the book that took me to the 2nd grade after I finally graduated from the 1st grade in beekeeping, because it took all of those foundational blocks that I'd accumulated, and it gave me a more advanced look at it.
The Behavior and Social Life of Honeybees.
Thank you, Becky, for looking that up for me while I was chatting. The Behavior and Social Life of Honeybees by Ribbons. And that book's been reprinted. It's funny, I made this discussion several years ago at a bee meeting, and one of the book vendors said, "What did you say in there?" Everyone is come running out wanting to buy Ribbon's book. I've only had 3 copies of it, but I've taken 12 orders for others. And it's just a bee book of the time. It's a compilation of the science of the day into a hardback book. That book was very helpful into opening new doors, more advanced doors than what I'd been accustomed to in the beginning books. Jeff, what's yours?
The first bee book that I read, I know I've told the story many times about the first observation hive I made with my dad down in the basement. It was a book called The Queen and I by Edward Weiss. It's a fictional book, but it's about bees. It was my first book that I bought, probably borrowed it long-term from the library. This one I actually got later in life but it was signed by Edward Weiss. It's a really good book. It's a step-by-step instruction guide for beginning beekeepers. And that was my first book. And after that, I have many more books now that I go to. But that was one of the first books I read from cover to cover on bees.
We can do a pretty good job of nailing down books, but if you ask me what is my favorite video channel, I don't have one. I've got nothing that I've really bookmarked that I go back to. The web is so vast that every time I log in, there's something new and different, and it always says here, click to follow my channel or subscribe here, and I don't always do that because I just end up burying myself in announcements and updates on whatever you've agreed to follow. So while I can give you my favorite book, I can't give you my favorite video cast. Now, I can give you my favorite podcast, hint, hint, hint.
Wait,
But what is that, Jim?
That shouldn't
which
be
one
a
is
surprise.
that now?
No, I'm thinking it's, what is it called? Somebody help me here.
I don't know.
Look it up, Becky.
Is the name kind of obscure?
Yeah, it is. It's maybe something like Honeybees. It is an obscure name.
Honeybee what?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody has to say it.
Yeah, it's
Honeybee Obscura.
Honeybee
Oh,
Jim,
we
go
almost
ahead.
said it
Let's all say
together.
it. Honeybee Obscura. Where we talk about everything and end up saying nothing.
I would disagree with that. Those episodes.
I'm sorry. I could tell that stung too much.
No. There's such a treasure trove of past episodes of Honeybee Obscura that those getting into beekeeping can definitely download and binge, and they will learn an awful lot about not just beekeeping, but about beekeepers.
Thank you for saying that, about the nuances of the lives of beekeepers struggling to keep their charges going.
We're going to have to wrap this up, but we've talked about books and videos. We've kind of passed over bee labs and state extension services. Those are out there as resources beginning beekeepers or any beekeeper should be aware of. Perhaps my go-to website is the Honeybee Health Coalition. They have a wealth of information that's updated regularly. They have a brand new Varroa guide. It's really, really good. And not to forget all the local and state universities. They are a great resource too.
Yeah, that keeps you local and also gets you some of the up-to-date information. So if everybody tunes into their closest state university that has a honeybee program, an extension program, that would be great. Also, we didn't mention the USDA Bee Lab. They have got some good diagnostic information on their websites for diseases and a little bit of interesting information that beekeepers can check out.
And we'll have the key links in the show notes of this episode, so please check those out. And one last resource I want to make sure that we mention for beginning beekeepers. We say beginning beekeepers, it doesn't mean you have to be a first-year beekeeper. It can be anybody really along the way. Are the new veterans and first responder groups that are out there for people wanting to get into beekeeping.
I'm just going to name a few because it's so exciting that we can. Mission Believe, Heroes for Hives, and also the University of Minnesota has Bee Veterans. And all of them are offering various forms of free programming for veterans. Mission Believe is including first responders.
And you can check out our interview.
Yep, Monica was able to tell us all about what Mission Believe is up to right now.
I think this brings us to the end of this part 2 of our addendum to the original part 2.
I think we should remind everybody to follow up and listen to the sister episode, which was the second episode in the first Getting Started in Beekeeping series. It will tie in nicely to our conversation we had today.
Yeah, and that was, season 2, episode 17.
17.
And that would have been into February of 2020. So, Becky, Jim, thank you for joining us today on this part 2 of the addendum sister of the...
It's the, you know what? In the spirit of honeybees, it is now going to be the sister podcast or sister episode.
Sister episode.
The sister episode. I'll vote.
The colony is filled with sisters. So I'm declaring it. I don't think I have that power, but let's just do it anyway.
From this day forth, sister episodes.
2, the original series, the sister series. I love it.
Sister series. All right. Well, I hope our listeners will join us next week on part 3, and we'll talk to both of you then. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Goodbye.
And that about wraps it up for this episode. Before we go, I want to encourage our listeners to follow us and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, wherever you download and stream the show. Even better, write a review and let other beekeepers looking for a new podcast know what you like. You can get there directly from our website by clicking on the reviews along the top of any web page. We want to thank our regular episode sponsors, Better Bee, Global Patties, Strong Microbials, and Northern Bee Books for their generous support. Finally, and most importantly, we want to thank you, the Beekeeping Today podcast listener, for joining us on this show. Feel free to leave us questions and comments at the Leave a Comment section under each episode on the website. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot, everybody.